Thank you very much, President Garvey, for those thoughts to orient us here. And now I'd like to introduce the President of the American Bar Association, Judy Perry Martinez. Judy Perry Martinez is of counsel and former partner and member of the management committee at her law firm in New Orleans, Simon, Harriet, Smith & Redfern. She, as I said, is the president of the American Bar Association, which is the largest association, voluntary association of attorneys and legal professionals in the world. Over the past 35 years, she's held various leadership positions with the ABA, including chair of the Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary, which is the committee that evaluates all nominees for the federal bench. And earlier, she served as the ABA's lead representative to the United Nations as a member of the ABA Board of Governors and as part of its executive committee. She's also served on numerous ABA committees dealing with critical issues in law and society. She served as the chair of the ABA's Presidential Commission on the Future of Legal Services and its Commission on Domestic Violence. She was a member of the ABA Commission on Women in the Profession, the ABA Task Force on Building Public Trust in the American Justice System, and the Council of the ABA Center on Diversity. Between 2003 and 2015, she was at Northrop Grumman Corporation, serving as the Assistant General Counsel for Litigation, and then as Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer. She's held several positions within the New Orleans and Louisiana State Bar Associations, and has served on the board of the Innocence Project in New Orleans, Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities, as well as an officer of the World Justice Project. She's also served as a Distinguished Access to Justice Pro Bono Fellow for Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. She earned her bachelor's degree from the University of New Orleans and her JD with honors from Tulane Law School. And so I really appreciate her support and happy to welcome Judy Perry Martinez.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Dean Payne, for those kind words and the kind introduction. And let me also thank President Garvey. It's an honor to be with you today and to have you host the Lawyers Without Rights exhibit and for arranging this most impressive program for all of us here today. And thank you to our honored guest. We are most happy to have you with us and our friends from across the way who have traveled far on their way, by the way, to the American Bar Association mid-year meeting. Since 2012, the ABA has had a remarkable partnership with the German Federal Bar and joint sponsorship of a traveling exhibit on the fate of Jewish lawyers in Germany during the Third Reich. Today, I am most pleased to recognize two friends of the ABA who have traveled here from Germany, Federal Bar President Ulrich Wessels and Executive Director Stefan Gotin. Thank you both. This is their exhibit. This is an exhibit about which we can all be very, very proud. And to have an opportunity to be the North American stewards of this exhibit, of this vision from the German bar, is quite the privilege. Uli and Stefan, please stand so that we all thank you in person here today. The origins of the Lawyers Without Rights exhibit goes back to 1988, when an Israeli lawyer asked the regional bar of Berlin for a list of Jewish lawyers whose law licenses had been revoked by the Nazis. While we know much about the Holocaust, until this exhibit was put together, few people knew the details of the Third Reich's attacks on German lawyers and how those attacks paved the way for history's most monstrous outrage against humanity. This exhibit vividly and sadly in some ways reminds us that the great tragedy that can follow lawyers when they are, as an essential part of the judicial system, doing their work, and how the just rule of law is undermined if those attacks against them are allowed to flourish. That's what happened in Germany starting nearly 90 years ago. This appearance at the Columbus School of Law represents the exhibit's first to a law school affiliated with a Catholic university or venue. The exhibit has been displayed at federal and state courts, including the Supreme Court building in my home state of Louisiana in 2017, public libraries, temples, synagogues, and community centers. A year ago, we published an English translation of a book on the fate of Jewish lawyers in Berlin. We have copies for sale outside of the room here. And through this book and the exhibit, the Lawyers Without Rights Project provides a chilling reminder of why we must all stand united behind the rule of law. Our presence here today, each and every one of you, should be a reminder to all of us that the rule of law is fragile. It takes commitment and work to maintain. When the rule of law is under attack, silence is not an option. Many of us here today are lawyers or aspiring ones. As lawyers, we share a commitment to due process, equality, judicial independence, and a fair and impartial judiciary, no matter where we're from, no matter what area of the law we work in, and no matter what our politics may be. The ABA's partnership with the German Federal Bar underscores that our commitment to the rule of law transcends all boundaries. Under Nazi rule, Jewish lawyers in Germany were among the first professionals to be persecuted, and many had to flee the country from tyranny. Jewish lawyers faced humiliation and degradation, and ultimately all but a few were driven from the legal profession. As Ben Ferenc, the sole surviving Nuremberg prosecutor, wrote in his foreword to Lawyers Without Rights, their suffering has not been forgotten, nor has it been in vain. We will never forget. I know joining us today are several descendants of these lawyers, first and second and third generation Americans whose ancestors were fortunate to survive the Nazi terror. Some are lawyers themselves, lawyers like Judge Marion Blankhorn, who you will hear from today. The stories of these descendants provide a very personal reminder of how the Nazis undermined the rule of law, replacing it with rule by law. Why lawyers must not remain silent when we see injustice, even against one, should be profoundly, profoundly obvious to each and every one of us. Why we must challenge unjust laws and policies that undermine the just rule of law, even if we and others before us have allowed them to persist, because that is how it is and has been for years in the past. Part of the reason this exhibit is so powerful is that it demonstrates that lawyers and judges serve on the front lines of defending democratic governance. When lawyers and judges come under attack, it is a warning that the democratic system of checks and balances is under attack. Unfortunately, this trend has continued long past the end of the Third Reich. For nearly a decade, the American Bar Association's Center for Human Rights has coordinated pro bono legal support, monitored trials, and engaged in advocacy on behalf of more than 650 advocates in every region of the world who have faced retaliation for their human rights work. Roughly a third of those persecuted advocates have been lawyers, judges, prosecutors, and other legal professionals who fight corruption, defend the rule of law, and represent the most vulnerable in their communities. Thank you again for joining us today, and on behalf of the American Bar Association and all those many lawyers within our nation and beyond who do our work, we thank the Columbus School of Law, Catholic University of America, for hosting this wonderful event in today's program. Thank you.